What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back to take a look at the injury report for this week. Today is Thursday, and we have some major updates on both sides for the Lions and for the Bengals. But we have a lot of good news, I would say, today from the Lions side. There's also slightly some bad news mixed in there. You know, you just got to mix in some salt just to give a little more flavor. All right, I know people that put salt on a lot of stuff. I'm not like that. You know, I got my food, like, hey, pass the salt. I don't need the salt. What? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not looking for the salt. Maybe ketchup. Depends what we're eating. Hold up, because ketchup ain't good on there. Don't put ketchup on macaroni. I've heard people do that. That's weird. It's weird. I mean, you know, if you do it and you like it, that's cool. It doesn't make it not weird. Plus, we have some notes as we got to hear from the Lions coordinators today, including Deuce Staley as well, the running backs coach. So we got a lot of things to dive into. So let's get it started.
We're going to bite a kneecap off, and we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. And on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up, and then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And man, hey, those graphics came out kind of clean in yesterday's injury report video. I can't lie. They're way better to me than just a normal color. I was like, ooh, that's whack. Now, before we get this video started, I do want to say that we will be live tonight, Last Second Dose. Make sure you guys tune in. Give us your questions. We're going to be rolling through a lot of things because we didn't have a show on Monday. So we'll be talking about the past week's game. We'll be talking about the upcoming game. We'll be talking about the rest of the NFL. We may even do sort of our own version of power rankings. We got a lot going on tonight. So make sure you tune into that show. But without further ado,
I got an instant swipe.
I don't know what that was. Okay, well, let's take a look at this injury report. We're going to start off with the Bengals first, then we'll get to the Lions. Because like I said, the Lions, they got some major updates today, and there's actually some good news there with the Lions. Anyway, let's take a look at the Bengals. All right, so here it is. Here's their injury report. In the bottom left, you can see Wednesday's participation report. It's a little bit different, kind of how the fonts worked out. It's a little bit more white versus the injury reserve, which has like more of a darker back. I don't know what it is, but it still looks cool. Either way, the injury report from today, the participation report from today is on the right. A little update here. If it's green, that means it improved. So maybe if it says FP, maybe it went from limited participation to full participation. So if it's green, it improved. If it's red, it got worse. If it's nothing, it stayed the same, or there might be a new addition to this list, and I'll let you know. And I don't think there's any new additions this week for either side. So keep that in mind as we go. I'll let you know, but I know there's not for the Bengals. Anyway, let's start off the top. Let's start off there. Trey Hopkins, we talked about him yesterday. This is their starting center, and even though he's had some struggles, it is their starting center. Right now at the guard position, they got a lot more questions right now about who is going to be their starting guard heading into this week. So it is important to have your starting center playing, that way you don't have to put your backup center in, because their backup center could potentially be their starter at right guard. So we'll get into that. But Trey Hopkins did improve this week. He went to limited participation from no participation yesterday. So, of course, that's very good news for them, where their interior offensive line is struggling a little bit, but at the same time, just missing some pieces now. Continuing down, Darius Phillips, who did not participate yesterday, has improved all the way to full participation. Illness, so he didn't practice yesterday. I think you see that a lot more with illness. It can fluctuate really fast. You can go from no participation to full participation with illness. Because a lot of times, if you're dealing with illness, you don't go to the practice. You kind of just stay home. So he went from no participation to full participation. Just a depth cornerback there. We could see him a little bit in this game. It's not one of their top cornerbacks, but there is no Trey Waynes because he is on IR. So maybe we'll see him a little bit mixed in this week. Let's take a look at the big one on this list. And as you can see, it is in red. That is Joe Mixon, the starting running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. One of the best players on this team. And we already talked about it yesterday. P. Ryan, who is on the COVID list, which is their backup running back, who got much more carries last week because Joe Mixon was a little bit limited in that game as well. He is on the COVID list. So yes, there is potential that they're without their 2 top running backs in this game. But as we talked about yesterday, Zach Taylor said Joe Mixon will play on Sunday. He could just be a little bit limited in practice throughout this week, and possibly in Sunday's game, maybe he could be a little bit limited there as well. But he did not practice today. Now, a big note from this that he was at practice. He was there. He was walking around. He was spotted wearing a tan hoodie. Taylor said that he was moving around pretty well, but today he did not participate. I'm not going to go out and say that he's not going to play this Sunday. I would still bet on him playing this Sunday. But I guess what? I mean, I was wrong last week, and I thought Cook would play. He didn't play. That surprised me. I'm going to still say I think Joe Mixon is playing this weekend, just from the straight up answer that we got on Wednesday. But you never know. It just depends on how it progressed throughout the week. I do think it was a big deal, though, that he was at practice and walking around. It makes me feel like it was more of a rest first day rather than, oh, he's really hurt, he can't be there. So we'll see how it goes. Tomorrow's obviously going to be huge if he returns to practice, but I would bet on the fact that tomorrow we see limited participation from Joe Mixon. Either way, he could be a little bit limited in this game on Sunday and possibly get less carries than we're used to seeing Joe Mixon get. So what's a big one? It is. Continuing, Deontay Smith. This is now a big one because this was possibly their starting right. I mean, this was going to be their starting right guard, assuming that Jackson Carman was unable to get off the COVID list. He is the other player who has been added to this list. By the way, P. Ryan did test positive. Jackson Carman, who has been the starting right guard for the Cincinnati Bengals for the last few weeks, being placed on the COVID list this week. Deontay Smith was the next guy up to take that spot for this week. And actually, interesting note, heading into the season, their first depth chart that they dropped, they had Deontay Smith above Jackson Carman on that depth chart. They ended up going with Jackson Carman when the injury went down with their starting veteran guard. But now with Jackson Carman, who's possibly could be out this weekend, as it's kind of just a we'll find out when we find out with the COVID list, but we know the door is kind of closing on that. Now Deontay Smith not participating. And he did not participate full yesterday either. He was limited, but to go down is not a good thing, right? And I think it's even more than just maybe he doesn't play. I think even if he does play, having limited participation at a spot at right guard where, like the Bengals reporters have said, we've seen him at left guard in the past, that is a little bit concerning. Now, we did talk about the possibility of them taking Quentin Spain, moving him to the right side, and then pushing Deontay Smith to the left guard spot where we've seen him play. That's still an option, but this is a big deal because if he can't play, now you're moving down to basically what would be your fourth option, technically, because first, second, yeah, it'd be like your fourth option, possibly at that guard position, depending on how they want to move it around. And that option could be the backup center, the rookie out of Georgia, Trey Hill, who did play guard back in college. You have to go back to 2018 because he was a center his last 2 years. We go back to 2018, he played some guard there, so they could go with the rookie, put him back at the right guard spot, which he played in the past, or they could go with Fred Johnson, who's been in the league a little bit longer. In 2020, he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he played a little bit of guard there, played some right tackle, played some left tackle. He's shown versatility all over the place. So, yeah, they have options. But, of course, that's a big deal to keep an eye on with them getting kind of thin at that guard position. Continuing, Quentin Spain, good news for him is that he went to full participation today from limited participation yesterday, but it was just personal reasons. I don't know what it was, but today was full participation, so that's good news. So we should see that guard who's been pretty darn good this season. And finally, Mike Thomas remains the same with limited participation, one of their depth receivers that I believe has 3 receptions so far this year. Yesterday I had it messed up. I kept saying 4. 3 receptions this year. And, of course, Joe Burrow, the quarterback, once again, full participation today. We've heard a lot of talk about Joe Burrow, but I'll just tell you this. The guy's going to play this Sunday. We've talked about it. It's probably going to be more of a silent count, first off, because they're on the road anyway. And it's just right now they were just giving him throat rest yesterday, but apparently he was talking to a teammate. So he must be able to talk a little bit. He can whisper. Either way, Joe Burrow's going to be playing against the Lions on Sunday. So that is the injury report update from the Bengals. That guard position is getting really interesting. And, of course, Joe Mixon is probably going to be the player to watch when it comes down to inactives. But, again, I would bet on him playing, but I was wrong last week for Delvin Cook, so I don't know. We got some good news, also a little bit of bad news. You know, sprinkled in some bad news. I do want to make a quick update here with Taylor Decker before we get into this. I did say yesterday that it must have been full participation because I didn't see him on the list. I forgot that you're not going to really see these guys on the list because there is that 21-day period where once he returns to practice, which he technically did yesterday, that they have to put him on the 53-man roster, make a spot for him on the 53-man roster. So I don't think we'll actually see him on the participation report until he's technically on the 53-man roster, because right now he's kind of in limbo. So I don't think we'll see him, but we do have a small update for him today, and that comes from Anthony Lynn, who was asked about Taylor Decker, and he said yesterday was kind of just a walkthrough. So he did practice with the left cast on, but it was just a walkthrough. He wasn't going through team drills, which isn't great news. But today, the word is that they wanted to get him out there, see some live reps, and then make the decision on where they're going. And talked about, you know, kind of wearing that little hand cast, or what he called a club. He said some players can play with it. It just depends on how he feels. Maybe Taylor Decker can rock with it. I know hands are super important for offensive linemen. You won't get caught for holding. I mean, I don't think. Maybe you could hold if you like how big it is. I don't know what finger is free or if there are any fingers free, which would, of course, change things up as well. So we'll kind of see. He's kind of just up in the air, it seems like right now, for possibly playing on Sunday. I would love to have him back. I think he'll make a huge impact. If there's one guy I could get back, it'd be that guy. but we'll see. Right now, it just kind of seems up in the air, but I guess sort of good news. And we'll probably know a lot more tomorrow because they'll be able to tell us about what he did on Friday. Just want to see where he's at with some live reps. But again, if Decker does come back, he'll be left tackle. Right tackle will be Penei Sewell. So if Decker did practice with team drills today, that means Sewell is probably getting some work at the right tackle position. If he doesn't play, he would have to go back to left tackle. So I'm sure they're trying to get reps on both sides, but even like the coaching staff says, there isn't enough time to experiment. So they'll have to figure that out soon. But right now, as fans, it just kind of seems like it's up in the air. Strong, we know he returned to practice. Tyrell, he's going to be out for a little while. So those are just a couple updates with the IR. But now let's take a look at this injury report for the Lions. Starting off the top, Corey Balantine remains on here with no participation. So it's sounding more and more like he probably won't play this weekend with a hamstring injury he dealt with in the second half of the Vikings game. With that in mind for Corey Balantine, if he can't play this week, we'll probably see Godwin active this week as the kick returner to take that spot back over, as both of those guys have done it so far this season. But I'm going to skip the middle real quick and just go down to the bottom with Jamal Williams, because this is a big one. Jamal Williams did not practice today. Yesterday, he was limited with the hip injury, but today he did not practice. Now, he was not at practice. He was not visible from what the media members could see. And that's kind of a big deal because, like we said, Mixon was there. He didn't practice, but he was there. Jamal Williams was not there. And they updated, I guess, his injury report status. Now illness has been added to that. So I'm going to bet that he wasn't at practice today. Less because of the hip, more because of the illness. I don't know what he's dealing with. I don't know what's going on there. Again, it's probably not COVID, because if it was, we'd see him on that list, which is good. I'm not sure what it is. Like we saw on the other side for the Bengals, Darius Phillips, he had illness and he came back in full participation the next day. So we'll see where that's at for Jamal Williams. But the reason I point that out is because in the scenario where Jamal Williams is not available this weekend, which would really stink, you could definitely see Jermar Jefferson active this weekend to pair with DeAndre Swift. And even with Godwin, I would think they'd probably activate both of those guys. If Balantine is out and both Jamal Williams is out, they would probably, I would think, activate both of those running backs to have Swift, Jermar, and then they could have their third was Godwin as a returner. Now, they usually go in with just two, but a lot of times they'll keep Godwin active. We just don't see him running in the backfield. But they don't always have Godwin active. Could come down to that decision to, hey, do we want to have Godwin active this week, or do we want to have Jermar Jefferson active this week? We haven't seen Jermar take kick returns aside from, I really think, training camp. I think training camp we saw him a little bit there. They have talked about special teams, but I don't think they're talking about him being a returner. Maybe they are. So there's a lot that could be going on with the running back room this week, but that'll be a huge one to keep an eye on. I'm very confident in the running back depth that we have, and I wouldn't think the Lions would go to the practice squad and try to grab like a guy like Craig Reynolds off of there. I think they would just rock with what they have. But it's very possible that we see Jermar Jefferson active for the first time this season if Jamal Williams can't play, which really, really stinks because I love me some Jamal Williams. I really like Jermar and I want to see him play, but that's not necessarily the way that I want to see him play. So we'll see what happens, though. I do like our depth that we do have, but that's interesting. That's the new addition is illness. That's why I outlined that in red and not the hip. Maybe it is the hip, but I'm assuming it's illness. I'm assuming. Either way, let's go back to the top. Trey Flowers, limited participation. Great news there. He did not practice yesterday. He played last week and he played well for us, and we need him this week. Well, limited participation today, so he did improve. Fantastic news. The guy that can play across from Charles Harris, who's been getting a lot of attention recently. I love it. Congrats, Charles. Let's keep building on that. All right, this guy knows he was a former first-round pick. Guys were both on the injury report last week. Hockenson didn't practice a ton last week, which I said was, kind of maybe why he came off a little bit slow into that game against the Bengals. It's nice to just see them back at practice. I feel good about those guys heading into this weekend. It's nice to see them get more practice, so you want them at practice as much as possible. I don't know if they were there yesterday or they were not there yesterday, but the more that we can get them out there, the better, all right? At least according to the coaches. But here's probably the biggest one, honestly, that I was looking for. Amani Oruwariye, the Lions' #1 corner with a hip injury, moved up to limited participation. That is beautiful news. And they actually asked Aaron Glenn today about who would be the next guy up in a scenario where he can't play this weekend. And he really didn't give us a exact answer. He just said there's going to be competition there, like there's competition at all spots, like safety. We've seen DeMarlo mix in. We know the Lions added Mark Gilbert, and that's okay. Even if Amani comes back, you still need Mark Gilbert because Corey Balantine could be down this weekend. So either way, this is awesome, awesome news. And we needed this. We need this big time. We need this guy to play. If there's a guy on this list that needs to play, it may be Amani, just because the fact when you watch the Bengals offense, they get one-on-ones. They have a guy in Chase who's been ridiculous so far this season. Their weapons are great. They want one-on-ones. They'll go ton of spread action, so you got to be able to cover. I'm not saying Amani was great last week, but at the same time, he is our number one at this point. And to not have him would make things very scary for our secondary, especially if the Bengals are lacking anything in the run game, like a Mixon, possibly if he's surprisingly out this week, because behind him, it's Chris Evans. There are some things they can do defensively with safeties and stuff to help their cornerbacks out. And Aaron Glenn said today that when he plans for another team, he tries to take away what they do best. And usually when you do that, you, in its own, kind of slow down their best player. That's when you look at last week, you probably think of Justin Jefferson. You're like, hold up, wait, Jefferson still went off though. But I think their focus was on, hey, we got to stop the run game, because that's what Campbell told us. This focus could be a little bit different this week. I mean, they're a balanced offense, but their focus could be more on, hey, we got to figure out how to stop this passing attack first to practice. Not just be healthy. We need him to practice. That way he knows what's going on schematically, defensively heading into this game. This is huge. Jonah Jackson remains on this list with limited participation, so at least he's out there and practicing. Our starting left guard. Again, it would probably be Stenberg that I would think would step into that role if we didn't have him, but Jonah Jackson practiced again, so good news there. I would like to see him take a step forward in pass protection, especially with no Frank Ragnow for the rest of the year. I like what Evan Brown does, but I want to see our guards help him out a little bit, and I'm hoping that when Decker comes back, that'll help him, because he'll be right next to him, and I think that'll be very big time. And then Sewell, who's been next to Big V, who's been arguably our best pass protector. So I think there's a lot of good going forward if Decker can get back, but I would like to see Jonah Jackson take that next step, especially in pass pro. And again, Swift is back on here with limited participation. It's been like this for a little while for Swift, so nothing new there. But the good thing is he continues to practice. Limited fashion, yes, but he continues to practice. So good news there. That is your injury report for this game for Thursday. Friday's going to be a big day. Watch for the Bengals offensive line. We got to watch for Joe Mixon, see where that goes. For the Lions side, Amani. You know, where does Amani go from this? Where does Jamal go? Does he return to practice? Does he come back off of illness? I would say it's probably better if it's illness. I mean, I don't want the guy sick, but it's probably better if it's illness rather than being an injury, because if he's not practicing because of an injury, there's probably a better shot that he's out. If it's illness and he just didn't feel well today, he can come back, feel better tomorrow, get some chicken soup, you know, lay down, take a nap, you know, hey, put that cold rag on your head if you're hot. I mean, do what you got to do, you know, put on a movie, do what you got to do, sit by the dryer. It don't matter. You know, take the clothes out of the dryer, like hug them. I don't know. Whatever it is that helps you feel better. If you can get back and healthy tomorrow, that'll be great. Anyways, that is the injury updates, but I have a couple of notes from some of the Lions coordinators today that I want to talk about. With Anthony Lynn first, he did say that we could see more tempo going forward with this offense. We've touched on it a little bit, tempo, but he said we could see a little bit more going forward, possibly as the players are starting to really grasp the concepts. And he was talking about trying to shorten the verbiage is kind of the words that we've been getting. And it's not that, and he just feels like the players right now are starting to really grasp it, and they would like to trim the verbiage a little bit. They want to give you one word that the players know the play. He gave us a play example today, and I don't remember how many words it was. It was like 8 words, but he wants to maybe turn that into one word where you can get that. And Goff talked about how he visualizes it, says it, then visualize it again to try to know where everybody's got to be. But he said the players are picking it up right now, and I think that's just some of those things that you get with not only just young players, but also with a new scheme as well. You know, you have a new guy coming in, everybody's learning this offense together, so I think it's just picking up those things. But he said that we could see more up-tempo, and that makes sense. If it takes a little bit of time to try to figure out, okay, where does everybody need to be, it's going to be tough to go up-tempo. But if you can say one word and everybody can get a spot and they know what their job is, tempo could become more of a thing. And actually, that could be pretty cool to see, because Goff did do some of that back at Cal. So maybe we see a little bit of that. Actually, Deuce Staley talked about the run game a little bit today, and he said he would like to get more opportunities where they could see some more of that thunder and lightning, Jamal and Swift, by getting a position where they're not behind early and you have to change up your game plan a little bit. That has been the goal. And hopefully we can see that. That'd be nice. Maybe this weekend that starts. Anthony Lynn also brought up the turnovers because, of course, they've been asking about those. 3 things. It's first off play calling. You know, the play calling that we do in those situations. It's also, of course, protection. Pass protection. We took a look at those. We had some really big struggles, and that's why I think Decker can help us a lot. But Dan Campbell also said there's got to be better protection plans, you know, better design plays. And they also brought up, of course, the quarterback making better decisions. You can't turn the football over. So, you know, we'll see where turnovers go, but we have had some issues with there. And like I said, we could be scoring a lot more points. We've kind of shot ourselves in the foot multiple times. We move the ball well. We have moved the ball pretty well throughout the season. We just don't have the points to represent that. We should be scoring more points than we are. Kadero Hodge is a guy that they're going to be counting on a lot. We know Tyrell, he's not going to be back this week, so Hodge is a guy they're going to be counting on more, and we're going to see him more. So that's exciting because I do like Kadero Hodge. And he said guys like Kennedy, you know, they're all consideration to play. You know, they just keep doing what he's doing. They like Kennedy. He's been inactive, I think, every single week this season. So maybe we see him active this week. Now, Aaron Glenn, he gave his defense a lot of credit. He likes where they're going.
Continue to improve. Now, I'm not proud of the record, right? Not proud of the record at all. But those positives for us, third down again, sticks out from last game. Those things just continue to be something that we want to emphasize as far as us getting better as a defense.
Improvements that we've seen from this young defense, and there's some things that, you know, they're still kind of learning, like those situations where you can't really let things behind you. And I think he's pointing to that A.J. Parker play that we brought up in the video where we talked about Jerry Jacobs' debut, which was also when Dan Campbell brought that up first. He brought up that play. A.J. Parker needs to get depth, but those are things that you will learn. You make the mistakes and you learn from them. We got a very young secondary, so those are things that you're just going to have happen, is you're going to have mistakes like that where you maybe do the wrong thing, make the wrong decision, and unfortunately, it costs you a little bit, but you learn from those. And as unfortunate as sometimes that's the best way to learn, is by have something happen, you know, have a consequence for that. Yeah, you messed up, they win the game. I don't want to see them win the game, but it really drills into your head. I can't make that mistake. I got to know what I got to do in this situation, because it can cost us a game. You know, as well as we played, it can cost us a whole game. And it hurts, but sometimes that can be the best way to learn, is going through that. We just got a lot of young players, but he was very happy with his defense. He said the third down play when they did the direct snap, you know, the fake where Kirk Cousins jumped up and everybody flew there and forced a 2-yard loss. He said it really kind of gave you goosebumps. Jerry Jacobs saying that he loved that he compete play after play, and they're going to keep working with him. He wasn't perfect, but he did go out there and compete. And again, I would expect him to start this week as well as at number 2. Stacy Walker had his best game against Minnesota, and he was starting to do the things that we've been working with him to do, and just kind of all got shown off in that Minnesota game. And man, T-Walk was phenomenal. I mean, this dude was such an impact player. It seemed like almost every drive he was making a couple big plays. Last time we really had that in the safety room, right? I mean, I would have to go back to guys like Glover Quinn. So if Walker can play like that, and I'm not saying we need that every game, but he was all over the place, and it changes a lot, especially when you got a young secondary, to have a guy that I think is now in his 4th year. You need guys like that, and Walker was so good. He forced the interception. He was making tons of run plays. He was doing so much for this defense. Just a couple of notes from the coaching staff today that the Lions gave us, and that's the injury report. We'll be back tomorrow with the final injury report of this week. We're going to be live tonight for Last Second Dose, so make sure you check it out. We got a lot of things to talk about, so make sure you guys tune into that. We're going to have some fun tonight, and I think that's it. I think that's a wrap. I think we're good to go. Bam. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.